Hi. So I really enjoyed doing this assignment because I'm a huge Hamilton person, and every time I listen to Hamilton, I learn something new. I start hearing different themes and word painting like this, or symbolism, or foreshadowing, or the way a certain character's leitmotif is brought back in. So that was kind of really fun to dig into this with that kind of reverse music history, I guess. So, madrigals, I was in a group called Madrigals in high school, and we sang a cappella, but we didn't just do madrigal music. We also did jazz and pop and everything. But a true madrigal is a term that is used for music that was born in Italy. Italian madrigals were secular in nature, had a lot of obviously polyphony, and originally they were a cappella. And as the genre evolved, sometimes they were accompanied, but they were meant to be a cappella. Most of them, pretty much all of them, were through composed, in meaning that the music changes along with the story being told, and there's not a set verse, chorus, verse, chorus. So there's not really repeated sections that one goes back to. A lot of word painting. The Silver Swan comes to mind. Um, they were developed in Italy, but soon spread to other countries, and a lot of madrigals, of course, ended up being in English. Um, I went to my school to get a book of madrigals that I used when I was in high school, and I still use today, but the school was locked up, could not get in. Okay, number two, describe in detail. So I honestly did not know about this collection, and I think it's a really clever. And you think about, like when King Charles was crowned king, and they had Katy Perry concerts, and they had all sorts of like festivities with modern music. And I don't know that this compilation was made to celebrate a specific occasion of Queen Elizabeth's life, but it was certainly created to honor her. So kind of seeking some uses of music now to honor the royalty and uses of music then to honor the royalty. So Thomas Morley collected 25 madrigals. I've seen different numbers, 23, 24, 25, but 25 seems to be the right one, I hope. Each has the lyrics, "Then sang the shepherds and nymphs of Diana, long live fair Oriana." So each one has that at the end, which I think is really clever. With the exception, I did find a source. Let me move this. With the very final one, "Come Blessed Bird," where the final one says, "Then sang the woodborn minstrel of Diana, long live fair Oriana." So we still do get the "long live fair Oriana," but we don't get then sang the shepherds and nymphs of Diana, long live fair Oriana. So in this madrigal, there is a ton of word painting, and as I said, I really enjoyed that. So first of all, Vesta. Who is Vesta? Well, she's the goddess of hearth and home, and kind of domestic life. So we start this madrigal that's an homage to the Queen Elizabeth the First. We start this with a mention of the goddess of hearth and home and just the everyday people. So these would be Queen Elizabeth's subjects, the people that were living under her. So the madrigal is everyday people praising the Queen. So as Vesta was from Latmos Hill in measure 1, 2, 3, 4, the hill is the highest note we see so far in the madrigal. And then right under that in measure 4, we have the first descending, and it's a quick eighth note scale all the way down, and then it ends ending, descending. So they go down. Then we have more from Latmos Hill in measure 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Sorry, that's measure 6. In measure pick up to 7, we have more descending, the eighth notes, and the eighth note runs into quarter notes, into the half note. And then in measure 8, we have a really big jump of descending in the tenor line, descending. And also in pick up to 8, we have in the sopranos running down the hill, descending. And then the next bit of action happens, and it is "she spied." And I love how he kind of lengthens out the rhythm here, because the repetition and the rhythm create suspense. Because the sopranos sing "she spied," and the altos and tenors answer she spied, and then the soprano twos go, she spied, and then the ones, she spied, and what the heck is it that she spied? And then finally, 2 measures later, we get the answer, a maiden queen. And then it talks about in measures 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, the same ascending, and the notes go up in the alto line, ascending, the maiden queen. In 14, we have longer lines of ascending eighth notes, talking about the queen and maybe all of her attendants ascending. So it's a larger party rather than just 1 or 2 people going up. So that's in measure 14. And those ascending lines go all through measure 14 and into 15, and then they kind of ascending, they do that same thing. And then the following measures, we have more of the ascending. In measure 20, we have rhythmic and word unison, the same ascending. So it is literally the same. It's the same rhythms on the same words in measure 20, 21. In measure 22, we have this word attended. So attended is to wait for something or wait on somebody. And the attendants might not be moving at the same pace that the queen does because they're following behind. So here in like measure 24-ish, or sorry, 22, here he goes to quarter notes and half notes. So it's a slower rhythmic progression. What did I write here? 22 followed by, see next page. 27 to 32, we get the country youth, the swain, the shepherd swain. And this is also the first time that the bass line actually comes in. So we all oftentimes think of shepherds as being young boys, the shepherds out abiding in the fields, but the shepherds were actually like grown men and they were tending their flocks. So this is the first time we hear the shepherds coming in, and we hear the grown man sound of the bass line entering at 25, 6, 7, at measure 28. So the shepherds come in, we have more quarter notes, more half notes. These are the shepherd swain, are the country youth. They would be, not fancy at all, just kind of there doing their job. So the slower rhythm makes sense, that instead of fast and eighth notes and a lot of interchanging notes. In measure 34, it's very clear who we are talking about. Diana's darlings. So those are her nymphs. That's the first time we get introduced to that idea. And because of the half notes in measure 34, it's very clear as to who they are. In measure 36, Diana's darlings see these young shepherd swains, and they start running down the hill, running down the hill, running down the hill. They see them, and absolute bedlam breaks out because the guys and the girls are wanting to get together. And then we have this repeated running down a main, running down a main, running down a main, run, and it happens over and over and over through all of, like, I'm looking at the page with 37, 40 on it. So a main means great force or great speed. So you can imagine if there were some hormones involved, they were running down to get together. And sure enough, at measure 48, he has the lyrics, first 2 by 2, they're going off together. First 2 by 2, and then in measure 50, then 3 by 3. Now the 2 by 2 are sung by just 2 voices, the soprano 2 and the alto. And then in measure 50, we have 3 by 3. So of course we have to have 3 voices, soprano, 2, tenor, and bass. And then in measure 48, 50, in measure 51, he talks about everybody together. And there he's got actually a whole note, which we haven't seen a ton of those, together. And the last measure of that page, everybody's in rhythmic unison, and we are on half notes. The leaving there, and that's all in rhythmic unison. And then in measure 55, the word goddess is mostly whole notes, and also the soprano sings the high note on G for on the high E flat for the word goddess. Leaving there, goddess, like they're elevating their goddess, even though they're leaving her. And then, of course, 55, 6, 57, All Alone. The goddess has been left all alone, and that is sung by just one voice, the sopranos. And one could argue that maybe the soprano voice is considered the weakest voice because it's the highest and lightest, and that's why they put that he put that on All Alone. But then we get a total change. It's almost like they realized what was going on, and we have Hastened Thither. And on Hastened, in measure 5, 7, measure 58, in the tenors, they start this running eighth note line, hey, 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 send. And then the tenor 2 comes, hey, 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 send thee. And then the basses also come in with the tenor 1s, hey, 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 send thee. So they're got the eighth notes on Hastened. On measure 61, in the section about their mingling together, he mingles beat 1 and 2 together by putting a dotted quarter note on beat 1 and an eighth note on the end of beat 2, mingling with the, and he kind of mingles those beats, because we haven't seen a lot of that in here. Obviously, we've seen some dotted eighths and dotted quarters and eighths, but here it seems like he's really meaning to mingle those beats together. The word train in like measure 64, 65, that is a longer note. It's a half note. And so you think the shepherds of her trains, it could mean her literal train of her gown following behind her, or just the shepherds and nymphs following behind her. But the half note symbolizes that, a little bit of length. Then they talk about the mirthful tunes, and the B natural in here kind of symbolizes a little bit of maybe unexpected laughter. In measure 60, that happens in 67 too. In 68, 69, we have the h sound on entertain on the vocal line, entertain. Well, that's just like some laughter, ha 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 ha, entertain. So he's got laughter in there in the voice parts. On measure 73, he ends this little bit of the scene. It's not really a complete end of the story, but it's definitely a complete end of the scene. So they settle down, and then in 74, there is new action, and they sing like a chorus, and they're all singing the same lyrics almost exactly at the same time. We do have that whole note in the tenor in 76, but everybody else is singing rhythmic unison like a chorus. In measure 75, 77, 78, they mention of Diana again, and she is a goddess. And so in the soprano line, the notes go up, of Diana, like that. And also in the tenor, the same thing, Diana, elevating that goddess. At the end of this line, it's talking about the nymphs of Diana. And nymphs are female spirits, obviously, so they would have these high voices. And the nymphs of Diana, these are only being sung by the high treble voices. So the soprano, alto, and the high tenor one. Although that doesn't really look that high in range, but it's the higher voices. And then, starting at measure 81 to the end, beginning with the tenor twos, so beginning in one of the lower voices, this is where we get that famous line, long live fair Oriana. And it repeats over and over and over and over again from here to the end of the madrigal. So they all sing long live the queen, repeatedly. Also, live is a dotted quarter note, so it's a longer note. So right away, they're introducing the idea of long live, please live, Queen Elizabeth. And also live is higher than long. So they're showing that they're lifting her up to good health. Long live instead of long live. That doesn't make sense. But lifting her up to good health and having that higher note on the word live does make sense. Also in measure 88, the whole tonality lifts up. The sopranos, they had been singing down on an F to an A. At 81 and at 87, they're all the way up in B flat to D, and they go up to a high G, which they did they did that in measure 85 also. So the tonality lifts up, like they're lifting her up. It's almost like they're lifting her up to God to keep her alive. They're lifting their prayers up to heaven. Long is, the word long is, sorry, the word long is higher, is lower. I said that already. Let me see if there's anything else. On 97 in The Sopranos, Live Fair Oriana, the name is brought out here. It's lengthened a little bit. And then 81 to the end is all about Oriana to pay homage to Queen Elizabeth. And then the fourth question, excuse me, was about the bass notes, 81 to the end. So they mimic the tune that we've been hearing all along, but at a very regal speed. So they go, long live fair Oriana, Anna. And then they just lengthen out the long, which is 4 measures, live, which is 3 measures. And guess what? They're flattering Queen Elizabeth, right? So guess how long her name is? It is 9 measures long in the bass part. So they are really laying it on thick for Queen Elizabeth, which is fine. That's great. So the bass notes mimic the tune at a regal speed. I think I said that. And it's really hammering home the point that they want Queen Elizabeth to have a long and happy life. So as I mentioned, wow, this got to be a very long video, but so much in this piece. And I hope that's what you were looking for, because I really had a good time analyzing it. Okay, bye.